All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Audio Signal Podcast. Today, with me, there is another podcaster that it doesn't have the show on ITSP Magazine, but we've been connected through someone that just started the show on ITSP Magazine, our common friend, Christina Stokes. And it was a good meeting that we had after the LinkedIn introduction, the mandatory nowadays LinkedIn introduction. Right. Unless we are to an event, then you're like, hey, let me introduce you to someone. Otherwise, we have to go through the cyber world. And that's kind of like what we're going to talk about today. The name of the podcast is connected to that. It's the Cyber Cafe Hour podcast. And we're here with Dr. Joseph. And we're going to talk cyber, but mostly we're going to talk story and storytelling and maybe what it means in this industry and the good that I think is doing in this industry. But, you know my opinion in regard to stories. Today we're here to listen to what Dr. Joseph's opinion is and what he's been doing so far. So, Joseph, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Marco. I definitely appreciate it. And, as you mentioned, our common thread, Christina, she was definitely the plug that, like I said, I really brought us together. But this was great. I'm just glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this industry is it's big, but it's very well connected as a community. Mm-hmm. And I would say, every single person I know knows someone else that I want to meet, that I want to talk to. And that's the beauty of having a podcast. And I think that's also why a lot of people in our industry, let's face it, there is a lot of podcasts about cybersecurity, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a ton. Just podcasting. Right. I mean, even just podcasts in general. I think at this point, if you don't have a podcast, something's wrong with you.
It's like you don't have a website,
right?
Years ago, and now it's like, what? You don't have a podcast? What's wrong with you? Yeah. Well, let's start with you. Really, your background for those that don't know who you are and how you ended up in the cybersecurity industry, and then, of course, into podcasting.
Sure. So again, my name is Dr. Joseph J. Burt-Miller Jr. I am a cybersecurity engineer with the U.S. government. I started my career actually with the military right after high school. Graduated like 2002, a long time ago. But right after high school, I went right into the Air Force. Did my basic training over in Texas. I did 4 years in the military. So during that time, I was focused on. I didn't do IT then. I did HVAC, and that's those who don't know, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So I was an HVAC technician. And then after I got out the military, went to the civil government service, and I bounced around quite a bit. I started at the VA hospital. Still doing HVAC, and then I did that for about 5 or so years until I finally got through into IT. And maybe if I could just share a little bit with that, how that got going, because for one, and I think this would be helpful for those who are currently in the space where they're trying to get started or try to make their way, whether they're working on their 10th resume revision and things of that nature. I get it, because it took me to the point I had to deal with a lot of failure trying to finally break into IT. I remember I was applying for jobs and I didn't get through. I was getting like at least 7 rejections, at least, almost to the point where I was like, I was about to give up, and because I felt like it wasn't working. And at that point in time, I was studying for my bachelor's in computer information systems at that point in time. And, I was very determined to get through. And then once I finally did, it did make it that much sweeter, because I understood it wasn't just handed to me. I didn't get it that first try. I really had to work, and each rejection, I was working to try to improve myself. How could I make myself better? And once I finally got through, my first supervisor, who I really hold in high regard, because I think he saw something in me to finally give me that chance. And then I think he noticed the hunger in me as I was, I was coming in IT. I was new. I was very green, anytime there was any projects or anything like that. And so maybe some of the more of the veterans, they're like, I don't want to do that. Me, I was raising my hand. I'll do it. Cause who am I to turn it down? Cause I look at that's experience, and that's something that I didn't have yet. And I was very eager to learn. And again, I think that's what he saw. He saw that hunger, and he would give me projects that he felt that could really help me to really grow. And so his name is Gary, and he's like retired in Florida now, but we've kept in contact with each other. And every time I moved up and made progress in my career, I've always kept him up to speed as to, how I'm doing. Because he kind of really helped me to really set that foundation, and also shape my mindset of how to really treat people, honestly. Because I think a lot of times within this career field that I've seen, and just from my experience, just you have folks who are very intelligent that know their stuff, that could speak, like I said, they know it back and front. When it comes to any particular topics, when it comes to cyber, but the way they treat people is horrible. And I think we've all maybe encountered, those type of people where, yes, very smart, genius, can't question it, but they don't know how to talk to people. Almost like they talk down to you because you don't know that same level of intellect as them. And that's what from my career and for me. And I guess just to finish that thought, yeah, I started the VA, and then I went to the Midwest. I worked at the VA in Omaha, Nebraska. Worked at the VA there. Worked at Offutt Air Force Base as a system admin. Came back to the East Coast. I worked at the DoD Cybercrime Center, which was very fun, and then over to DHS, and then now where I'm currently at with NSA. So. As I mentioned, just every stop I've had I say maybe even the privilege of having that experience to know that, I've had great leadership and I've had not so great leadership, but I'm able to learn from both aspects, because I know how that makes you feel as a human. Mm-hmm. And so for a quick example, someone could be so as far as like the bad or not so favorable supervisor or leadership example, you only want to do just the bare minimum. You do just enough. When the time hits, all right, I'm out and done. I don't care where I'm at, finished, done for the day. Yeah. Now, when you have a great leadership, man, you're just willing to do anything for him or her. You're willing to just run through the wall for them, because they take care of you, and you want to do the same. You want to make sure you take care of them. And I think that really shaped my philosophy in how I want to, for myself, how I want to treat people. Because now within I just recently got a new position. I'm going to be serving as a division chief. Nice. Within the agency. Oh, thank you. And I'm really excited about it, because now because I've always wanted to be in a position where I could have that influence and be able to give people a chance and to have that authority. And one of the things I even said during my interview was that I want to bring back to the position to be more people centric. More people focused. Yes, the mission is important. Can't question that. We have to make sure to get the mission done. I'm not questioning that, but at the same time, it doesn't mean we have to treat people like less than, because of it. So I think I want to bring that back to that position, to that leadership. And just like I said, just I think leadership in general. I mean, and maybe even we try to even reevaluate the people that we do put in these type of positions. Yes, like as I mentioned before, yes, they may be smart and know their stuff, but how do they treat others? Can they curate teams? Can they get people to work together towards that one common goal?
Yeah. I'm gonna say something here because I growing up, I always have this. I've done a lot of sport when I was a teenager, and I remember one of the things I started notice as a young kid was the fact that some people are really good player into some sport, like in my case, soccer or other kind of sport, like being Italian. That's soccer, but the point is, some people were really good, like the excellent player, but could you ask like how do you do that? They couldn't tell you how to do it. They just do it. Other people that maybe they were not the best player, they had that gift of teaching you, like giving you training and motivate you, and I think it applies to leadership very very much. Like some people are really good at doing things, and we need those. But some people may not be the best in the field, but they're the best at creating the best. And so I mean, it's a parallel that it doesn't matter who you're leading and where you're leading. Even in a family, you want to be a good leader for your kids. You need to be understanding. You're not a dictator.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah. And the role of storytelling into this. I feel like telling story and giving example and metaphor, and that's the core of motivating people.
No, Marco, I'm glad you even brought that up because I always believe that sports and cybersecurity are not that different. I think, as you say, because even as you gave that example, I'm thinking of, so for me, my top sport is basketball. I mean, I love basketball, football, baseball, even hockey. I started getting into hockey probably like in 2020. And I actually, hockey is very fun, especially if you go to the game. It's a lot of fun. I actually put it up there with NBA as far as fun level. It's pretty fun. But no, as you even laying that example out, you think of, so in terms of basketball, so yeah, if you have a player that's really great, can score 40 points a night, 30, 40 points a night, just unstoppable, but they would be considered maybe a ball hog because they don't get their teammates involved to try to make them better. So then that player's individual stats is great, but their team record is horrible, because they're just not winning. Now, on the flip side, yes, you may have someone, maybe they're not scoring the 40 or 30 points, but maybe they have a lot of assists. You know why? Because they're getting the other teammates involved, making sure they put them in a position to be successful. And they look at that overall record, they're winning. They're in the playoffs because that leader, he's sacrificing maybe his personal stats or his personal accolades, so that way the whole team can succeed. And I think, again, that's really the same thing that you have to look at when it comes to even in the world of cybersecurity. When you have your teams and you build your teams out, you can't, as far as a leader, you don't want to be the one, of course, that's going to just take all the credit. You want to be able to put your team in a position to be successful. Understand their strengths, and that, of course, that's going to take time to curate relationships with your team, develop chemistry. The best teams are the ones that have the best chemistry. I don't think you could even beat that because if you have, because think about it, you're trying to put, let's say you're looking at a cyber team, maybe have 5 to 6 people on one team together, coming from all different backgrounds, different personalities, thought processes, and things of that nature. As a team lead, your job is to try to bring all those varying mindsets and personalities together, and to get everyone to buy in to that common goal. So So that may require, maybe sacrifice on certain aspects from some team members, things of that nature. Some may have to do a little more, whatever the case is. But if you get everyone to buy in, and again, you have that chemistry, you understand where people are, and even as I talk about trying to be more people centric, not just completely focusing on the mission, but understand where they are as a person. But maybe, one of your team members may have had a death in the family, or someone's maybe their spouse is going through a pregnancy, and they're staying up late because of it, because with the baby and everything like that. Yeah, just understanding, like, we're not all robots. We still have lives outside of the work, and sometimes that may carry over or spill over into the work. And I think as a lead, you have to be proactive and to understand that, and just having some empathy and understanding just where your team are and how best you could serve them. And even so even with that, you're kind of even implementing a bit of that servant leadership. You want to be able to do what you can to help your team be successful as it can be.
Right. Is this the leadership aspect and the career, the human aspect of cybersecurity? Is that at the core of your show? Is kind of like where the conversation you try to steer it into?
Right. Yeah. So, when myself and my co-host Alfredo, when we got started with the Cyber Coffee Hour, one of the things that we did, or I say one of the motivations that got us going, is that we surveyed the landscape as it pertains to cyber podcasts, and one of the things we learned that we gathered from it is that we'll see a lot of podcasts that are featuring individuals who maybe, in those C-suite positions, CIOs, CISOs, CTOs, what have you. And there's not enough focus on those who are just getting started, because even those CISOs, as I just mentioned, they didn't start out as such. They started from the bottom and worked their way up. And mind you, and I'm not saying that as a bachelor, because my personal goal is to become a CISO myself. So, but I feel a part of it is lacking, is that because I don't think there's not enough voice being given to those who are maybe dealing with gatekeeping, trying to get into the cybersecurity field, racism, also, even the amount of issues that women have to go through, black or white, what trying to get into the field. And I don't think those stories are being told, because I think a lot of the messaging that comes out with cyber is, well, for one, you have one side that will say that there's a big gap, cybersecurity jobs gap, and it's continue to widen. But then when you look at some of these, I guess, quote unquote entry level positions, and they want you to have a CISSP, with like 3 years experience, I'm like, that's not entry level.
It is the famous startup position with 10 years experience.
you have to start getting experience when you're a kid. Like, you got to start working when you were like 10 years old to get experience according to those standards. I mean, it's nuts. But no, what we want to do is give a voice to those who are, like I said, getting started, who feel like they're being underrepresented. Their voices are not being heard, and we want to make sure we highlight those individuals, and also because to when you hear those type of stories, you're more able to relate to them, especially because, like, for me myself, growing up in New York, in Mount Vernon, New York, I didn't have anyone that looked like me, doing this, and I keep that in mind for as I continue to progress and the work that I do, is that I want to be able to set that example for those coming up behind me. So, of course, for my kids, and also those who maybe just try and get started, who are thinking about getting started in cyber, and to know to say, hey, I see he's doing it, or I see that she's doing it. Maybe I could do that too. Because I think representation is important. If I think a lot of people kind of make up their mind on things if they see someone that they can relate to, just to see someone doing it already.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of podcast in general, not just in cybersecurity, but in general, is really helping. Like before the podcast, it was the blogging, then became vlogging, whatever. But the point is, it was regular people doing their job, not the C-level, not the celebrity, that were able. It's kind of like a democratization of the media, right? I mean, you can access. You get a small microphone. You don't even need a microphone if you want. You can use the computer microphone, and with few bucks or for free, you can give it a go, and you can have a conversation with someone, and you can bring your story. Now I'm going to go back into the story to the digital world, or the wave, if you were broadcasting, and people can see that, hey, someone is doing that. Why not me? So when I say there is a lot of cybersecurity podcasts, I don't say in a bad way. I'm actually happy because more people hear about that, being also in that industry. Myself, that's how ITSP Magazine started. So tell me, is there any stories that stuck out more than others so far? I think you mentioned someone that you brought into the show when we were chatting before recording that actually is not in cybersecurity. And that was kind of cool to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. One of my favorite episodes was the episode we featured. Her name was Valina Pinnock. She's from Jamaica. And that was a very special one to me because my bloodline is Jamaican. My parents are from Jamaica. And so when we had her on and she shared her story, she mentioned that, at first go around, she wasn't in cybersecurity. I think she was doing like hotel management, if I remember correctly. And like she was with a friend, and a friend was trying to kind of talk her into doing it. So she actually they did a class for a little while. Then she quit, and then kind of went back to hotel management for a bit. And then, but she really saw like, man, I really don't want to do this, rest of my life type of thing. So she gave it another go. And then this time she went all in. Like she just, she had like a whole laundry list of certs now. Network Plus, A Plus Security. I mean, I remember when I was reading her intro, I was like, oh wow, this doesn't stop. But no, I think it was really great. I thought it was really fascinating to hear because, and even one thing she even said when she was on the show, because she didn't think that she would be considered to even be on a show like that. But to me, I guess maybe from the outside looking in, you see someone who has that talent and that perseverance, I'd say, because to know that she really found a love, like I said, it didn't start out that way. It wasn't like love at first sight, and she stepped away from it for a little while and then came back. But then she really, like I said, she really had a love, develop a passion for it, and it really showed. And she's really doing a lot of great work. She's very highly skilled. And one of the things I enjoyed after the episode was that there was a lot of great. She received a lot of great praise from her peers. When we posted her episode on LinkedIn, and a lot of our friends were saying, "Oh man, I came, that was a great episode. That was great." Everyone was just a pouring of encouragement for her. And I thought it was really cool, and that's what we wanted to do. We want to give those voices, those who are doing very good things within the field. She has a great heart, and I could definitely see her being a leader. Years down the road, or even shorter than that, because she's such on a very high trajectory with the way she's going. But no, and that's what we want to do. We want to feature and highlight people who are, like I said, It may not be the CIOs, CTOs yet, but they're getting started and they're making a big impact. They're impacting their community and they're making that example, because even like her friends now, they see her on a podcast, cyber podcast, and like, oh man, I didn't know she was doing it like that. Mm-hmm. And they get encouraged because they see someone that they know that they can relate to. And they're like, oh man, and you start thinking like, maybe I should consider cybersecurity. And that's how, honestly, I think that's how you really can effectively impact and change lives, because you have to show that it can be done. Yeah. So, and I think she did exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many ways you can motivate people, and I go back to, you know, sometimes you watch a movie as a kid and you get inspired. Say, hey, I can do that. Yeah. Or you see someone in TV but again, it's about democratizing it. It's hard to kind of connect with the celebrity. Plus, there is this idea that everything is an overnight success, right? You're a musician, and he made it big. I'm like, yeah, but this person has been playing since when he was a little kid, like, and probably failed and got refused a million times. It's not really an overnight success. So it goes back to the sport. It goes back to you failing, many times. I'm a big passionate of NASA history, all the Apollo program and Mercury, so I always listen. And the amount of time you hear the astronauts had to apply to get just in the program, it's crazy. And these are like, test pilot back in the days and all of that. Right. And it goes in everything. And so we need to break this myth that, it's either an overnight success, and if you don't make it at the first try, you need to give up. It's BS. I mean, it's bullshit.
Marco, I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that's why maybe even some people get discouraged, because and I don't want to, I guess, necessarily pick on LinkedIn, but I think a lot of times if you look, someone who's maybe getting started on LinkedIn, maybe not understand how the algorithm works. And, they see like post after post, like, oh man, so-and-so got a new job, so-and-so got a new cert, or whatever. And then you look at yourself and you're like, man, I'm not doing that. Like, what am I doing wrong? But what those people who are posting about those jobs or new certs or just new chapters in their lives, a lot of times they don't share the failures that led up to that point. So you don't really get the full story, a lot, it's hard to do that, because I think a lot of people, it makes them vulnerable. They don't want to talk about the losses. They only want to talk about the wins. And for me, I think it's important to talk about the losses as well, because that's part of the journey. For me, when I pursued my Network Plus certification, I took it originally in 2017. At that point in time, I took it with my Security Plus cert. I passed the Security Plus first try. Man, I think it was like a week or two later. Then I didn't study as hard, admittedly, for the Net Plus, because I thought it was pretty much similar to the Net Plus. Failed. But then in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to be a network engineer. I'm not going to need this. So I left it alone for years. And then until I got to the NSA, I started last year. And when I received my the projects that I was being assigned, and I was like, oh man, I see this is like a little bit more technical. I think I need to go and get that Network Plus. So so then last year I took it again in May. I failed it then, and then again in December of last year, I failed it again. And then was still determined to pass. I still wanted to get it, and I took it I think last month. I took it last month and finally passed. So and each time, even with that, even the failures, I post the failures too, because I think it really goes to show, like, because I think a lot of people feel, as you mentioned, if they feel like they don't get it their first try, or they fail, like that they're a failure, and that's not true. To me, that shows courage. I mean, you still try to work at it. I think the biggest travesty is when you fail and then you don't try again, because you never know what you're missing once you finally get to the other side of failure. And that'll be my message to anyone, even listening to this, like, no matter how many times you fail, if it's something that you really want to pursue, something that you believe in, keep going at it. I mean, maybe make the minor adjustments that you need to do, whatever it is. But if that's something you truly believe in and you want to do, don't quit. No matter what people say, no matter what people do, keep going for it. Keep striving, and you'll get there, because it will make the reward that much more sweeter, because you went through all that, and you know how it feels, going through that whole journey, you know how that makes you feel, and then to finally get it, you appreciate it more. It means a whole lot more than someone, maybe, like I said, if they just get it with no problem. So yeah, just keep striving, keep working, don't quit.
Hey, look, when you look at stories, any story, you can watch a Disney, master of story with cartoons and all of that, but any other movie or book, there's always that failure. Many times it's a lot of failure.
Right.
And then, eventually you get there. Why people write like that? Because first of all, I think it's life, right? I mean, and social media is not just LinkedIn in general. Social media are not doing a good deed for teenagers in general and kids, because the moment you go there again, it all seems like, oh, why they have this beautiful life and career and tell me how you got there. And the other thing is just because I think we fuel, we get energized and we become better, because now you're here, you told your story, and I am sure 100% that most of the people listening to this, they're probably thinking like, hey, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to get going. So we need to share this kind of story, and to be candid and open and all of that. So tell me, as we start wrapping here on time, what are you envisioning what kind of story are you envisioning for your podcast? Because it is relatively new. You have, I think 13 episodes the last time I checked.
Yeah, we actually got a couple more in the pike, so yeah, we're hitting around there.
Tell me about those, and kind of like what kind of people do you want to bring to the show? I mean, maybe right now there is people in the industry listening and like, hey, I want to go share my story, because that's the kind of story that Dr. Joseph is telling on the show.
No, absolutely. So one thing that I'll share first is that what we want to do, and again, as Alfredo and I worked on this, is that we want to be different, like from the like I said, that landscape of cyber podcast. So much and so is that we want to not only feature those who have that cybersecurity background, but even those who don't have that cybersecurity background. And the reason for that is, I think we could even reach more people by meshing two different genres, or maybe two different worlds together with the common thread of cybersecurity. And I gave you one good example is that one of our episodes, which I thought was a lot of fun that we had, was Dexter Henry. He's a New York Post sports commentator, and he's never done a cybersecurity podcast ever in his life. He's all sports and everything, and I followed his work for a while as well. But I reached out to him and said, hey, kind of like the shot in the dark. I told him, I said, hey, I love what you're doing. Love to bring you on to the Cyber Coffee Hour, and surprisingly, he was very excited to come on board. But we had him on, and what we want to do, I said, so in this situation, when we have a guest that doesn't have that cybersecurity background, we still try to find that common thread. So in this situation, in this episode, we talked about cyber threats that happen within sports. So I think we talked about during that point in time that there was a cyber attack within the NBA. Certain a couple of teams. I think one of them featured the Houston Rockets. They had to deal with a cyber attack, and also like different cyber attacks that happen like with the NFL, the Olympics, things of that nature. So we was able to have a great discussion on that. And so the whole purpose or strategy behind that is, so now when Dexter's followers, people who follow him or his peers or what have you, they see him. Of course, they're used to seeing him on, like I said, sports related podcasts or shows, or like his own sports shows. But now when you see him on like a cyber podcast, they're like, "Whoa, what is Dexter doing there?" Now they start getting intrigued, and it gets them thinking. And they see that they listen to the conversation, and maybe though, like I said, maybe his followers of his peers, Dexter's peers, they see him on this type of show, and maybe they had an interest in cybersecurity, and they didn't, maybe they need that little push to finally get them over the fence and say, hey, maybe I should pursue cyber, because that sounds pretty cool, and so again, what we're trying to do, we want to think of innovative ways, different ways of, because we talked about, I think earlier, the big cybersecurity jobs gap, trying to attract more talent, and I think we have to think differently. We have to think of different ways how we can do that. I think we have to sometimes kind of meet people where they are, maybe touch on some of their interests that has nothing to do with cyber, and still try to, like I said, find that common thread and then pull on it. Mm-hmm. And also it just makes it more fun. I think it helps to give even the cybersecurity field a better reputation, to try to give it a little bit more life, as opposed to, it's not just for geeks and nerds and things of that nature. It can be fun. There's a lot of things that you can do, a lot of different avenues within cyber that you can explore, especially if you're coming over from maybe a different career field. There's something in cyber for you that you can do, that you can pursue. You just have to give it a shot, and like I said, you can have a lot of fun, and try to change like those perceptions, or maybe those misconceptions that maybe people may have about cyber, or you have to be a certain way to get in, or this and that. No, I mean, if it's something you want to do, just come through. We'll take it.
You don't need a hoodie.
No. See,
well, I think it's opening. I mean, I'm not a tech person. I remind that everybody all the time. I come from branding, sociology, and political science. But the more I have a conversation on my other show, or with Sean on the cybersecurity one, I mean, we talk with researchers, with political science, we talk with psychologists, we talk about social engineering, and open it up to a lot of different avenues. I mean, law. With artificial intelligence now, generative AI, it's getting all over the places. There's privacy. I mean, you name it. So I am happy that people like you are not just having the tech to talk conversation. We're not just talking about breach and the next. I mean, we need that, of course we do.
No, of course, yeah.
But not everybody should do just that. So I'm excited to hear more of your stories. I'm glad that you found the time to come here. We had a coffee together, if it's your show, the coffee. This is all about storytelling. But hey, I enjoy my cup of coffee with you. And and I wish you all the best. And for everybody listening, I'll have the link to your social media if they want to get in touch with you, your website, the podcast, and anything you wanna share. And for everybody that is listening now, subscribe to my show, subscribe to Dr. Joseph's show and his co-host. And together we're trying to share more stories so more people can come in the industry. And it's a pretty cool job. I got to say, we're not telling the story the right way. If you want to add on that, please. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, it's trying to change those misconceptions about cybersecurity. I think people, like I said, even as you mentioned, the hoodie. Honestly, I don't even know how that became the standard, but no, cyber is much more than that, man. you could be cool, and you don't have to be a nerd, with a big gulp right next to you. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be that way. And I think that's what kind of deters people. You're like, oh man, I'm not, I don't want to be doing that. I mean, you could be fly and still doing cyber. I mean, come on, you could. It's for everyone. So
very cool.
We just got to help change the narrative.
Yeah. And there's no better way to do that than sharing stories. So keep doing that, and people keep listening. And again, take care. See you around.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for everybody for listening. Bye.
All right.